we go.
Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With your permission, I will make a statement about the murder of Henry Novak. Last December, Henry, aged just 18, was a first-year university student with his life ahead of him. He was kind, hard-working, loved by his family and friends. His murder at the hands of Vikram Digwa was a horrifying act. Digwa murdered Henry and then lied about him as he lay dying, falsely accusing him of racism. It was an evil act. I know the thoughts of the whole House will now be with Henry's family and his friends, just as mine are. What they have been through is heartbreaking, for most of us, unimaginable. I know nothing can take their pain and loss away. But yesterday, we saw some measure of justice. Digwa was sentenced to life imprisonment. He will serve a minimum term of 21 years.
Should be more.
His mother, Kiran Kaur, has been convicted of assisting an offender. She is due to be sentenced on 17th of July. And today, the Crown Prosecution Service has authorised further charges against other members of the attacker's family. With further sentencing and possible charges pending, we must be cautious still in what we say about this case, so that we do not place any proceedings at risk. However, I can and must pay tribute today to the dignified and powerful words of the Novak family in the statement they gave after yesterday's sentencing. They deserve answers. They deserve answers in particular about what happened on that awful night and the actions of the police officers who arrived on the scene. I expect many in this House and many more across this country have now seen the police officers' body cam footage released last night. It is, without question, a disturbing and tragic thing to see. People are rightly asking questions about how the situation was handled, and they are shocked and disquieted to hear Henry's words, "I can't breathe." I know that it is difficult to wait any longer for answers, but there is a proper process to assess whether there have been incidents of police misconduct, led by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC. They will determine what could and should have been done differently. They will determine what action may need to be taken against individual officers. The family yesterday called on me, and I quote, to ensure the IOPC has the resources, authority and independence it needs to conduct a full, fearless and transparent investigation. Mr. Speaker, I can confirm to you today that I will do so. The IOPC will be equipped and encouraged to act to find the truth and to ensure, if necessary, that there are consequences. There have been accusations, I know, of two-tier policing, that one community has been prioritised over another. It will be for the IOPC to determine the facts with regard to this specific case.
Why
I
isn't
cannot
that
and
House
will not
full?
comment on them.
Why
But let
isn't
me
it
say this
full?
on the question
Every
of preferential
MP
treatment more
should
widely.
be in that House today.
The police in this country have a sacred duty to police without fear or favour. Everyone in this country is equal before the law. It is the promise upon which our whole justice system rests, and the equality of every citizen is the foundation on which the openness, tolerance and generosity of this country rests. Let me also be clear about one other thing, a dangerous undercurrent that I have seen in the reaction to this awful crime. Threats against police officers are utterly unacceptable. There can be no justification for intimidation, abuse or attempts to take the law into one's own hands. A police officer unrelated to this case has been misidentified online and subjected to death threats. He has been forced to relocate to protect himself and his family. Misinformation and inflammatory commentary is making a dreadful situation even worse. We must all, together, condemn it. And we must also allow the facts to be established through the appropriate investigations and the courts, and we must do so calmly and responsibly. The Novak family and Henry's memory deserve answers. They have also called on us all to take action. Action to address the daily tragedy of knife crime in this country. This government is committed to halving knife crime in this decade. And since the start of this Parliament, we have made progress. Knife crime has fallen by 10%. Knife homicides are down 27% at their lowest level in a decade. But clearly, we must do more, whilst there are still tragedies like this one.
I think Statsman might question that.
We have recently published our Halving Knife Crime Plan. It sets out how we will go further to drive sustained reductions in violence. It brings together action across government and across society to stop people from turning to knife crime and to ensure that perpetrators are caught and brought to justice. Amongst a range of measures, this will see schools and families supported to address the root causes of knife crime through the establishment of 50 Young Futures hubs. Police using new crime mapping tools to target enforcement more precisely and making better use of stop and search. And cruel and exploitative drug gangs stopped from criminally exploiting children, preventing the knife violence that is driven by the county lines trade. In relation to knife controls, there have been calls to limit the right of Sikhs to carry their ceremonial knife, the kirpan, one of the 5 holy items in their faith. The Offensive Weapons Act of 2019, passed under the previous government, clarified and strengthened existing legal protections in relation to long kirpans. This included extending defences so that kirpans can be lawfully possessed for religious reasons and used in religious and ceremonial contexts.
Oh, yeah.
But let me be clear. Carrying a knife for the purpose of religious observance is one thing. Using it, as so tragically occurred in this case,
there shouldn't
is
be
quite another.
any
It
usage
is a
of this
vile
stuff
act,
at all.
of the utmost severity, and it will be met with the severest punishment.
Honestly.
Yesterday, the Novak family ended their statement with a powerful call to us all. I quote, "We do not want his death to be used to create further
delivery
division,
at this time
hatred,
while this is
or
on.
tension."
Damn.
They quoted the words of the prosecuting lawyer, and I quote again, Mr. Speaker, "This is not a case about Sikhism. This is not a case about racism. This is a case about murder." I echo those words. We cannot allow this murder to turn communities against one another. We must condemn those who seek personal political profit from tragedy. Instead, we must show who we really are in this country. This was a murder, a vile and violent crime. The punishment must be reserved for those who are responsible for the act. We do not believe in collective punishment in this country. Instead, we stand together against an act of pure evil. We condemn those who committed this heinous crime, not all those who share their faith or their ethnicity. Yesterday, a sentence was handed down in court. I know it will never be enough. The loss felt by Henry Novak's family and friends will last forever. A wonderful young man will never enjoy the promise of the life that stretched out before him. The evil acts of his murderer and accomplice will never be undone. But we can choose to use this moment to pursue positive change. We are still limited in what we can say. There is a sentence to be handed down and further charges may follow, and there is an IOPC investigation ongoing. But I call on everyone here to be responsible in this moment to allow justice to run its full course. But while we must be limited in what we can say, we must not be limited in how we act. I will end with the words of the Novak family once more. Last night, they wrote that no other family should experience the heartbreak and horror of losing a child to knife crime. Let that be the challenge to us all, across this House, across government, and across society. It is the very least we can do to honour the memory of Henry Novak. Mr. Speaker, I commend this statement to the House.
Chris Wilkes, Shadow Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Home Secretary and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for ensuring the government came to the House today. The murder of Henry Novak is devastating for his family. He was an innocent young man on the way home when he was brutally killed. Henry's family have suffered an unimaginable loss, and I know the thoughts of the whole House will be with them all. The evil murderer, Vikram Digwa, lied from start to finish, including a false allegation of racism. But on arriving at the scene, the police appeared more concerned with the accusation of racism and even the possibility that Digwa himself was injured than they were in helping Henry. Henry told the police he could not breathe 9 times. He told them he had been stabbed 4 times. The response from the officer, we've all heard, was to say, "I don't think you have, mate." Henry was handcuffed and dragged across the ground as he lay dying. Can you imagine what he must have felt as he cried out for help and was ignored, as the officers who should have worked to save him instead handcuffed him and inquired after the welfare of his killer, standing just inches away? Henry's dad, Mark, said this: "Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. He lost consciousness before anyone believed him." So we need the IOPC to urgently and transparently report into how it was the police attending were more concerned with the accusation of racism than they were in helping a dying man. Mr. Speaker, we cannot tolerate a situation where false allegations of racism by criminals are believed. We cannot allow the colour of someone's skin to be a consideration in how the police or other public services treat people. And yet this has happened. Just recently, we learnt that Valdo Calicone, who murdered 3 people in Nottingham, was not sectioned by mental health professionals because they thought there was, and I quote, "an over-representation of young black males in mental health detention." The consequent failure to section Valdo Calicone, in part because he was black, led directly to the murder of 3 innocent people. The head teacher of Axel Radicubana was accused of racist stereotyping when she described Radicubana as a threat to safety, and the risk assessment was watered down. Radicubana, of course, went on to stab and murder 3 young girls at a Southport dance class. But, Mr. Speaker, this has not happened by accident. It is enshrined in the police's own policy documents. The police anti-racism commitment, published in March 2025 by the NPCC and the College of Policing, urges police forces to reverse engineer the same arrest rates between ethnic groups, even though the offending rates are different, by treating different ethnic groups differently. Let that sink in for a moment. An official police document actually says people should be treated differently based on the colour of their skin. I've said before at this dispatch box, at least twice, that document should be withdrawn. The dangerous ideology of so-called anti-racism, allowing people to be treated differently based on race, must end. Extreme activists have hijacked the policy-making process, and this is where it has led. It has no place in policing, it has no place anywhere. So does the Home Secretary agree that the so-called police anti-racism commitment must urgently be withdrawn? It is morally wrong, and it is dangerous as well.
That's a good point.
Police forces must focus on catching criminals and keeping the public safe. They must simply treat everyone exactly the same.
Yeah.
I want to finish with Mark Novak's words yesterday, Henry's father. He said this: "Henry was 18. He was kind, ambitious, loved, and full of promise. He had his whole life ahead of him. But that future was stolen from him, and no verdict and no sentence will ever give it back." Mr. Speaker, it is true that nothing can bring Henry back. But let us make sure that no one ever again experiences what Henry did in his last tragic moments.
Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me thank the Shadow Home Secretary for
his
remarks
house
and
empty?
For the tone in which he's reflected on this horrific murder and the words of the family, which obviously he knows I share as well. Let me just say his initial point, I would normally let it slide, Mr. Speaker, but I think there's far too much misinformation floating around social media for me to just leave this one unchallenged. On the government coming to the House, he will know that the proceedings and sentencing concluded at 4 o'clock yesterday. We said we would come immediately thereafter to the House, and we have presented ourselves here today. We have responded in an appropriate way with all of the facts at our disposal and all of the judges' remarks at our disposal for our review before coming to this House. And I think it's important that we respond in these moments in a measured way, and that is what we, the government, have sought to do. He referred to evidence in relation to the Valdo Calicane inquiry. He will know that the inquiry into the the Nottingham attacks is well underway, and I don't think it would be appropriate for me from this dispatch box to preempt any findings that the inquiry might make. But of course, all of the actions and assumptions made by professionals of different public services, including the police and the health service, are subject to scrutiny within that inquiry. I'm sure those are matters that we will return to as that inquiry reports. He did refer to the findings of phase 1 of the Southport inquiry in relation to those horrific murders and the findings in relation to how the public service systems in that case, in relation to Axel Shabana, centred the danger he might have posed to himself given his mental health diagnosis and did not take into account the danger he posed potentially to others. There have been recommendations, he will know, that have been made for change in this area, which the government will respond to fully in due course. But let me be very clear with him and all members in this House, in all such matters, in terms of how we engage with our public services and how they assist risk, the only important factor is the risk an individual poses, not their race, not their religion, or indeed anything else. And we will not tolerate a situation where other irrelevant factors are taken into account. I repeat again, all are equal before the law.
Really?
And every public
then why are
service
Sikhs able to carry daggers?
In mind. He referred to the police.
It's a racial privilege.
Commitment. He will obviously remember, I'm sure, that the race action plan for the police began life under the previous Conservative government. In fact, I'm old enough to remember when Theresa May called out disproportionate use of stop and search for black communities in particular. He will know that the way that policing works in this country is by consent. It is important that the police retain the confidence of all of the communities that they police, and that there has, I think he would acknowledge, been a history and a context here relating to racism and the police. Whatever changes are made, it is important that nobody overcorrects or course corrects such that all of us as citizens are no longer equal before the law. And this government will always
does the
ensure
document
that
exist?
in fulfilling their sacred duties to keep our communities safe, that the police always act without fear and favour and always ensure that every citizen is treated equally.
Does the document that Chris Phelps referred to exist?
Or ignore historic and legitimate concerns that there have been from some communities about institutional racism as well as differential treatment. I condemn all types of differential and every type of differential treatment. I do not stand for it. My own track record as a government minister shows I will always act when there is evidence of differential treatment, and it is absolutely vital that that message is heard loud and clear across the
Ask
whole
people's
of our country.
opinion on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Secretary of State for her statement. Henry was a popular and much-loved student at the University of Southampton, and his murder has horrified our city. I know both my honourable friend, the member for Southampton Test, and I want to commend everyone at the university for their response and support for the university community following this tragedy. Mr. Speaker, like many, I've watched the body cam footage, and it is both heartbreaking and infuriating. It makes it plain for all to see how Henry posed no threat that would warrant being handcuffed, and yet was treated as a criminal based on the lies of his murderer. Now, no one in their right mind thinks that one Sikh or one or two police officers represents all Sikhs or the entire police force. As Henry's father has said, this is about murder, about our response to it, and about our prevention of it. So I have two questions for my right honourable friend. We have a knife problem in this country. That's why we've taken early steps to ban zombie knives and to crack down on knife sellers, but it is obvious that is not enough and we have to go further. So will the Secretary of State commit to clarifying a set of tough and consistent knife laws and the resources to enforce them so that we can actually move on? And secondly, I echo the words of Henry's dad, as she did, and ask the Secretary of State to guarantee that the IOPC will have the resources, the authority and the independence it needs to conduct a full, fearless and transparent investigation. Will she guarantee that? Because the catastrophic errors that were made when police officers got to Henry must never happen again.
Absolutely.
Well, let me thank my honourable friend for his contribution and for his questions. Let me give him that guarantee the IOPC will and do have the resources that they need in order to conduct their investigation, and I know that they will do so, with the full independence that is afforded to them in our system. I understand that they intend to report finally within the next 3 months, and I do believe that a meeting is now taking place with the family. Some contact had been made before, but they were waiting for the end of the criminal trial. So, of course, they will do their job. They are getting on with doing their job, and I expect them to report as quickly as possible, but I can give him the guarantee that he seeks. He's right about us having a knife crime problem in this country. That is why the government has a landmark commitment to halving knife crime over a decade. It's why we've launched the Knife Crime Action Plan, and let me reassure him it does have the resources it needs in order to fulfil its historic mission.
Max Wilkinson, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a heartbreaking case of a young man who should be alive today with a happy life ahead of him. Because of the forces of evil, he is not. On behalf of my party, I want to extend my sympathies to Henry's family and friends, and I welcome the Home Secretary's statement today. The independent investigation should uncover how one evil individual was not picked up, despite apparently exhibiting disturbing behaviours that saw him ejected from his place of worship and having an obsession with weapons. Police officers, of course, we know, work under high stress and must make split-second decisions. We rely on their good judgment every day. Tragically, in this case, the officers made a clear and terrible mistake, one that failed Henry and has broken the hearts of his family. The investigation must ensure recommendations are made so nothing like this can happen again. But as the Home Secretary said, there must be no doubt, though, that the police officers that we see on our streets must be treated with respect. Before going any further, we must also acknowledge that Digwa betrayed his faith and he betrayed his community, and he deserves his punishment. Regardless of that, it is incumbent upon all of us in this House, when we discuss this issue, to bear in mind the words of Henry's father, Mark, who said, "We do not want Henry's murder to be used to create further hatred, division or tension." Since the sentencing and the release of the harrowing video showing the sickening incident, the vast majority of politicians have responded to this matter with due sensitivity, and that reflects well on this House. It is therefore all the more disturbing that we have seen the Honourable Member for Clacton once again using tragedy to divide British communities. We all know why he does this. He's made a career out of this and has become rich as a result. But we are also well aware, as he is, that his actions are divisive, dangerous and fundamentally un-British.
This is not about reform.
To observe their faith are hard won. They cannot be contingent upon the colour of any individual skin. Those rights, we know, come with a responsibility that Digwa has betrayed, and he must now serve his well-deserved punishment. Of course, as other members have said, we are too aware of the tragedies of knife crime and the problem it represents in this country. That must be tackled, as Mark Novak has rightly said.
Take all knives out of the
equation. In this case tell us the knife being carried by the murderer
irrespective of religion. Take all knives out.
Part of their faith.
Mr Wilkinson, it's no use holding your hand up as though you're some policeman. I'm policing it on the time given. You're quite a bit over. I hope you're coming to the end now.
I am, Mr Speaker, and I apologise. As Mark Novak has said, the outcome here should not be one of further division. In that spirit and in Henry's memory, we must work together to ensure this kind of tragedy is not allowed to happen again.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, let me say I welcome the contribution from the Liberal Democrat spokesman and associate myself with his words again in relation to the family and their reaction to what has happened. I'm not sure there was a specific question in there for me, but if there are other things that the member wishes to pick up with me, then I'll be very happy to engage with him on other points of detail that maybe he wasn't able to come on to. Let me just reiterate for the benefit of the whole House, Mr Speaker, anyone using this tragedy, this horrific, vile act of murder in order to stoke further division in our country should be rejected by everyone across this House. Political grandstanding and further division is not what is needed. Clear-eyed action and a commitment
there are
to ensure
genuine points being made. Sorry, no, don't agree with you. Don't agree with you.
Mr Speaker, this is a terrible incident, and my heart goes out to the family of Henry. But is my right honourable friend concerned, as I am, that some have raised the issue of the Macpherson inquiry, and that this has caused the police to hold back when dealing with people who perpetrate crimes who may be from an ethnic minority. Does she agree with me that there is nothing in the Macpherson inquiry that suggests the police should behave in that way, or excuses the extraordinary behaviour of the police at the scene of this crime? And does she think that what needs reviewing here is the way that police are trained in dealing with incidents of this sort? Because it seems to me that there was that what happened
fundamental
at the scene
flaws
falls way below what we expect of the police.
Devastating flaws.
Well, thank my honourable friend. Let me say, look, police officers must apply the law fairly, without fear or favour, to every single person that they serve. They do work incredibly hard and they do get it right the vast majority of the time, and where mistakes are made, it is right.
That's when you
that
see
they
them
are properly
arrive.
Investigated and examined. I do think the whole House should remember that our police officers every day run towards danger in order to keep our communities safe. He will know on the specifics of this case because of the ongoing independent IOPC investigation. I don't think it's appropriate to comment further on the specifics of this case.
Father of the House, Sir Edward Lee.
I agree with everything the Home Secretary says, and I agree that we shouldn't weaponise this issue, but nor should we tiptoe around it.
Correct.
The truth is that many white people in this country feel that the police are so terrified of being called racist that either they underreact in the case of the appalling grooming scandal, or they overreact in this case.
Absolutely.
So there is a role for the Home Secretary now. She needs to really summon in these top police officers and say things have got to change. We are all equal. Don't be terrified of what people think about you. Just carry out the law as you're supposed to do as police officers.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have made very clear from this dispatch box and over the course of my tenure as Home Secretary to say all are equal before the law, and the police must always act without fear and without favour towards any one group. I don't think it's helpful for us to start pitting either majority or different
Nobody's
communities
pitting
against one another.
They're
That
just
is not
raising
what this
serious points.
Requires, and it is important. He's right. There's always a balance to be struck. There mustn't be underreaction or indeed overreaction. It is always a balance. And I do believe that the police, in the vast majority of cases, do get that balance right. And as I say, our police officers every single day run towards danger in order to keep us safe. I will always scrutinise all these actions to make sure that our police service is functioning as it should be.
And why are so many
so
people unhappy with the police?
Country, regardless of the colour of their skin,
somebody
or
do
the
a
faith
poll
that they
out
have
there.
or may not have, can be absolutely certain that they will always be treated equally, and that whatever complaint they have will always be investigated in the way that we would all expect.
Amanjeet Singh Desi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am deeply saddened by the murder of Henry Novak, and my heartfelt condolences to his family, whose pain was made all the worse by the police wrongly handcuffing Henry, believing the lies of the violent murderer. And that stripped Henry of his dignity in his agonising final moments, something which should never happen again. But also, Mr. Speaker, what's very galling is that the likes of Reform, Restore and the far right decided to politicise people's pain.
Who's setting up
attacking
the division
the
now?
Community
Who's setting it up now?
The kirpan and wanting it banned, even though the kirpan was not used in this violent attack. And they've decided to scapegoat and throw under the bus an entire community based on the actions of one violent murderer. And let me also give them a history.
You're meant to be going through the chair, not across the chamber.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker. And let it not be said that we see them and we will stand up to them. And we let me also give a short history lesson, Mr. Speaker.
Order, order. I started this session by tolerance and respect, and I don't expect to be pointing at each other and attacking each other. You work through the chair. We want an orderly chamber that is respectful. This does nobody any good. I think... Nothing.
Mr. Speaker, because hundreds of thousands of Sikh soldiers bravely fought alongside British soldiers during both World Wars. Tens of thousands made the ultimate sacrifice, proudly wearing their turban and their kirpan. So what reassurances can my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, give to the Sikh community, which is both horrified and ashamed at this brutal murder, and they are fearful of their right to freely and peacefully practice their faith.
Take the knives away. What's wrong with that?
Well, let me reiterate for my honourable friend, religious freedom is a very
Don't care how big they
important,
are. Take the knives
that,
away.
This government
That means
respects,
everybody's
that's been
equal.
respected by different governments of different party political persuasions, and I'm sure that that will continue to be the case. As I said in my statement, we are not a country that collectively punishes an entire group of people for the actions of individuals. The responsibility for this murder rests with the murderer, and he has now faced justice and been sentenced, and that is the right way for these matters to proceed. Let me also say something, Mr. Speaker, on the tone of this debate. I think it would be right for the whole House to remember, I'm sure Henry Novak's family and his friends are watching, and the way we conduct ourselves in this place can of course be passionate, but must not result in name-calling and also in just shouting different political views here, because I don't think we should all stand for a politicisation of this murder. There are lessons to be learnt, and I'm sure further issues to be drawn from what has happened once the IOPC has concluded its investigation. I'm sure we will debate them here in the future as well, but the way that we conduct that debate matters just as much, in my view.
Yeah,
as
we
what
get
is
the
said.
message.
Lewis Cocking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an appalling and sickening tragedy. Words cannot express my heartbreak for Henry's family and fury at the system that has led to this. We have all seen the body-worn video, and in a previous role, as part of my job, it was my job to review that footage and give an independent judgment. In this case, it is clear to everyone that the police did not use appropriate and proportionate action. There are many good police officers who work hard to keep us safe. But on that night, those police officers displayed no concern for Henry. Immediate actions should have been taken to try and save his life. But instead, Henry was put in handcuffs and mocked as he lay dying. Those police officers have serious questions to answer. Can the Home
Well, I
Secretary
think one of them's
explain
already
what
resigned.
action the government will now take to ensure that every officer involved is held accountable for the decisions that they have made, and so that the public can have confidence that we'll all be treated equally under the law?
Well, let me give the honourable gentleman that assurance by referring to the fact that the IOPC is investigating this matter, and they will be free to conclude that investigation using all of the powers that they have and also all of their evidence-gathering abilities. He will know, having reviewed such footage in the past, of course, what is publicly available is 3 minutes of a much longer incident, but the IOPC will be able to review every bit of body cam footage, all of it in its totality, as well as other evidence that sheds light on the context
put that out to the public as well.
The incident, and also what the police officers saw and how they reacted to it. The IOPC is free to make recommendations not just on specific conduct but also on wider lessons that should be drawn. Let me reassure him, once the IOPC has reported and made its findings, I will make sure that I personally update the House.
Jen Craft.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to pay tribute to my constituent Henry Novak, a bright young man at the start of a life that held so much promise. The turnout at his funeral and the outpouring of community support show that he had an impact well beyond his young years. I'd like to pay tribute to his family, Mark Novak particularly, his father. Many here have quoted his words, calling that Henry's death does not lead to more division and hatred. His sister Olivia made space in the early days of her own grief to support Henry's friends. I think that speaks to this family and their courage and their bravery and their dignity in dealing with one of the most tragic and devastating things that any of us could ever imagine going through.
Is anybody going to take the knee for him?
Like many in this house, I've watched the body-worn video camera footage that was released last night, and I watched it with horror. I cannot imagine what Henry's family felt seeing that and knowing that that was their son's last moments. They expected help from the police, but when Henry lay dying, what he got was accusation and he was disbelieved. This can never happen again. I would like to ask the Home Secretary what she will do to meet Henry's family's calls. First of all, to tackle the national emergency that is knife crime. Like many families who have suffered a loss from this appalling crime, Henry's family have called that his death has not been in vain, that lessons are learnt, and that they can go forward to see that his legacy is that no one else has to suffer that grief. And secondly, I would welcome the Home Secretary's assurances that the IOPC investigation will be thorough, will be fully resourced, that no stone will be left unturned, that the family will have the answers they need and deserve. They will know why their son was treated as a criminal and why the criminal was treated with much more dignity than their son was.
Absolutely.
And I would be grateful if she would speak to make sure that the family's needs, their wishes, and that their voices are heard throughout this inquiry.
And all questions they ask answered.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Speaker, let me first pay tribute to my honourable friend for her powerful contribution as Henry's constituency member of Parliament. Let me firstly give her absolutely the assurance that she seeks in relation to the IOPC investigation. I know that investigation is continuing at pace. I know that the family is being engaged with. If there are any concerns about that process, I do invite her to let me know immediately, and I will personally ensure that any concerns are dealt with and that the family can have confidence in the IOPC process. Let me say also on knife crime, this government has acknowledged the absolute epidemic of knife crime in our country and the imperative that we have to act upon it. It's why we have our landmark commitment to halve knife crime over a decade, why we have launched the Knife Crime Action Plan. It is a resourced package of measures designed to deal with the scourge of knife crime. And let me give her this reassurance, and exactly as I said in my statement earlier, we will leave no stone unturned to deal with knife crime in our country, and we do so in the name of all victims of knife crime, including Henry. Their lives must not be in vain, and we must learn the lessons that prevent these tragedies from occurring in the future.
Robert Jenry.
When Henry lay on the floor, he warned that he had been stabbed 4 times. He said that he couldn't breathe 9 times, and yet the officer chose to cuff him rather than treat him. That officer should be in court being prosecuted for a total dereliction of duty.
Absolutely.
But the bigger question is this: why do officers behave in this way? Is it because they have been taught repeatedly to elevate perceptions of ethnic minority communities over the safety of white British people? That sickness contributed to the killings of Rudakabana, of Kalakone in Nottingham, and now to Digwa, is a sickness rooted in the anti-racism agenda. Will the Home Secretary root it out? Will she return to equality before the law for all? And will she say that when it comes to public safety, white lives matter just as much as anyone else's?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me say to the honourable gentleman, I don't think this is a moment to pit white Britons against non-white Britons.
Oh, come on.
This is a moment to reflect on a horrific tragedy. He knows full well that the IOPC is investigating the conduct of those police officers. It would be wholly inappropriate for a member of this House to seek to preempt an independent investigation into the potential misconduct of police officers.
This is why you're going to lose the next election, big style. You're going to be out. No doubt about it. You're going to be out.
Can be learnt from this case. I will personally ensure that all lessons are learned and indeed acted upon. And
that's because all eyes are upon you now, and upon the police in this country. All eyes.
Who and what we are as a country, that we are all equal before the law of our land. That applies regardless of the colour of your skin. That applies whether you're a non-white Brit whose family arrived here 50 years ago or 10 years ago, or if you're a white Brit whose family have been here for about 300 years or more. It's
great words.
Equal before the law
Great
of our
words.
land, and we should all support that principle, but not use it so as to pit our citizens against one another. That is not what this moment demands.
Lawrence Session-Lerby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for coming to the Chamber this afternoon. And as many honourable and right honourable members have said, no one can be moved after watching that footage and just seeing a young life being wasted like that. But
I have to say, I'm just going to finish it now because I'm not really happy about what's going on here with these people. I mean, it's just incredible. That house should have been full. There should have been so many people in there. I know. Let me just mute this. You know, there should have been that house should have been full. Okay, you know, if look at what they did for George Floyd. I mean, you know, it's just incredible. Take all knives out of the equation. That's the matter, irrespective of religion. Take all knives out of the equation. We've got no guns. Is anybody going to actually start a religion where, it's part of their religion to have a gun? No. And questions have to be asked. And I'm sorry, but, these people are not living in the real world if they don't realize that the majority of people out there are upset. They are questioning what's going on in regards to race, creed, and colour. They've got lots of questions to be asked. And yes, there is a balance to be found, but I don't believe that Labour actually have that balance. I don't believe that they do. And that's why they're going to be out. So let's just say that we're going to leave it there. I can't be bothered listening to this anymore. And it's not because I don't feel for the family. Oh my God, do I feel for the family. My God. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry for the doorbells going, but, that's life. Okay.